By introducing to you Sister Pat Boyle, who is the Associate Director of Pastoral Planning for the Archdiocese, and she will be speaking to you about the role of the Parish Pastoral Council in the collaboratives.
To sit closer together instead of at individual tables, because one woman sitting by herself.
Yeah, why don't do that?
So we have people here from various parishes, and we didn't necessarily have the expectation that you'd be sitting with people just from your own parish. So if there is room at your table for someone to sit so that we can have some cross-fertilization, as I like to call it, please feel free to sit with other people, because you're going to hear some things that you're going to want to react to. So invite people. Sit up with Father Mark and Robert if you want, or move over to the table behind you. You like spreading out. Then I'll leave you as you are. I'm having a hard time with this. All right, so as I begin talking, Ellen is passing out to you the slides of what I will be doing. And Jim, I think you can probably see where I am. I'm the Disciples in Mission, slightly above you, on the desktop. Ellen is handing out to you two sets of papers. The top one that's got color on it is the one that I will be you have a copy of the text, but it will also be on slides. So I wasn't sure what the arrangement of the chairs would be in case people couldn't see the slides readily. So we're here to talk about the role of the council as part of Disciples in Mission. And I hope as a beginning that I can say that you're all familiar with this wonderful document called Disciples in Mission, a Pastoral Plan for the Archdiocese of Boston. I hope you've all read it. If you haven't read it once, you should make sure you get to reading it. I'm going to be referring in my presentation to a particular section in the Pastoral Plan, which I will recommend to you as you go forward. So what we're expecting from the councils. Every group, whether it is the pastoral staff, the pastor, the parish council, or the parishioners of the parish, everyone is to have a focus on becoming strong, stable, intentional, and effective evangelizers of this gospel that we proclaim as Jesus Christ. The good news of Jesus Christ is what we are all about. And so your role as pastoral council members and finance council members and school board members, if there are this variety here tonight, your role is to ensure that every single thing that happens within the parish is done through the lens of becoming strong, stable, intentional, effective evangelizers. You're communicators of the gospel message. And so anything that happens in that parish, you're like the ones that do the examination of conscience for the parish and for the pastoral team, because you need to constantly be reminding them, how does this fit into our being an effective center of the new evangelization? That's your role. You are to be calling all of the parish, by virtue of your membership on those councils. You are visioning members. Now, in the past, we always referred to the council members as people who were the vision people. And that's been difficult for councils to get a handle on. So one of the things that we're going to be talking about tonight, that I'm going to actually put most of my focus on with you tonight, is where you will be doing that visioning and how you will be doing that visioning. So we'll move to the next slide, because part of your role as council, both parish councils, finance councils, and school boards, is that a collaborative pastoral plan is the responsibility of every collaborative. Now, what is that? In Disciples in Mission, on page 6, article number 10, which you do not have, but that's why I said to you I would be referring to that particular section, is a somewhat loose description of what the collaborative pastoral plan is all about. In that, you will find that the pastoral plan is going to be written by a committee that will be drawn up by the pastor in consultation with the parish council and finance council. In fact, there may be 1 or 2 members from each of those councils that will be part of the group that writes up the pastoral plan. The pastoral plan will be made up of approximately 8 to 10 people, and preferably no more than that, because you know what happens when you get a group of people together. That's a large group of people. It's very hard to edit anything. Everybody's words feel like they're the most important words, and you get to the point where you end up wordsmithing, and then the glory of the work feels as though it's just been lost. So the collaborative pastoral plan writers will be a group of 8 to 10 parishioners, pastoral team members, and council members. That pastoral plan is meant to set forth for all of the collaborative the goals that you see are most in need of being focused on at this particular point in time. What are those areas that you feel as though need an insertion of stability, effectiveness, intentionality that will invite that new evangelization to be tapped, proclaimed, explored more readily amongst all of the parishioners? So the commitment of the collaborative will be to use in your pastoral plan to find ways that you can put expression to using your resources and your energy as a collaborative. Looking at ways that you can operate more efficiently and effectively with your programs in the collaborative. Always, always, always with a focus on the new evangelization. Each of the pastoral plans will be implemented at the local level. Now, this is one of the things that I think is a beauty of the pastoral plan, is that it invites the individuality of each of the collaboratives to really be explored and to be really featured in the pastoral plan. So you're highlighting the uniqueness of your particular collaborative in the pastoral plan. So there will be no 2 pastoral plans that will look alike, which is really adding to the wonderful creativity of God that exists within our parish communities. It's really something that we'll be celebrating as we go along, to say, wow, look at what this parish holds up about itself. And in another parish, oh my gosh, another whole wonderful idea that's being presented, and where people are feeling as though these are areas that we want to deepen, or these are areas where we want to explore for the first time, and we've never done them before, and yet we want to put some energy and resources in the direction of these particular goals. So the local part of this of your particular pastoral plans will be very, very important for you to keep in mind. Because what will happen is, once that pastoral plan is written, it will be the responsibility at the local level to make sure that that's being carried out. That's what that principle of subsidiarity is all about. It isn't Cardinal Sean who will be watching over you saying, you said you were going to do this. Are you doing it? No, it won't be Cardinal Sean. Cardinal Sean will be eager to hear about all of the ways that you are implementing your pastoral plan. But he isn't going to sit back and give you a report card that says you've been a success or you've been a failure. It's going to be you yourselves as councils that will say, we're working well at this, or we have some areas where this is not working to its best. So that principle of subsidiarity is extremely important. It means you have authority in your local level to be able to carry out the design of this collaborative pastoral plan. The collaborative pastoral plan will address practical. This isn't pie in the sky. This is practical, concrete issues, such as it will describe possibly the composition of your pastoral team. It will set out particular strategies for evangelization. You'll talk about the financial viability of the parishes and their properties and their use, the property's uses. You will probably speak about various things such as the religious education programs, adult faith formation programs, liturgical schedules, where the priests will be living. The way that it appears on this slide is not necessarily the order that you have to put it into. These are just brainstormed ideas that you will need to be thinking about when you are creating that pastoral plan. There's not a particular order that we'll be looking for at all. One of the key places that the Cardinal Sean will be looking for, and we'll be interested to know from feedback that you give us, how successful are you at promoting vocations? How successful are we at promoting vocations? I can tell you, as a woman religious in this archdiocese, that we probably would get a possible passing grade. We're not getting an enthusiastic A on our ability to promote vocations. Not only not promoting vocations to the priesthood, which will be extremely important for us going forward as parishes, but we're not promoting vocations to the diaconate or to religious life, consecrated life, nor are we encouraging vocations to the single life and to good married life. So one of the very important points that must be included in every pastoral plan will be your strategy for addressing vocations, and in particular, vocations to the priesthood. Now I could give you some examples, but I'm not going to because I know you're all creative enough to be able to come up with some. So let's look at what has to happen before the plan is written, which is the now. When you go back to your parishes, after these trainings are all completed, because the leadership piece and the evangelization piece of your training will help you to think about what are some of the things that we might want to make sure get included in the pastoral plan. So all of your training time is part of this before. Is that clear? So one of the things that you need to start to look around for is who are some potential parishioners, not staff, not the pastor, but potential other parishioners who might be good on that pastoral collaborative plan committee. Who might help to formulate that pastoral plan? So that you will aid in the selection of the people who will be the writers of the plan. You will also, if you are not one of the people who is chosen to be on the committee to write the plan, the people who do write the plan are going to need to bring it back to the councils before it gets submitted and say, here's our draft. And you're going to need to be people who will give them feedback or suggestions or possible things that you say, you know, we don't need to include that. That doesn't seem as though it's an essential element to the pastoral plan. So you'll be people who will be critiquing and editing and making some really creatively good suggestions prior to the submission of the pastoral plan. And you're going to be the ones who are going to need to keep before those writers, each time you read the draft, you're going to need to say, are these achievable goals for us? Now, that's a different question for every single collaborative. Will these goals that we write, will they be achievable for our collaborative? And you're going to be the ones to help make sure that they're not so pie in the sky that we could never do them in 1,000 years. We want to see ourselves successful at the things that we put down for our points for growth. Then, after the pastoral plan is written, it will be your responsibility to hold people's feet to the fire. Because you know, on parish councils, there are reports made at parish council meetings. So there will be reports made about how did we do on these particular goals that we have written. So it will be up to you to say, how is the implementation going? In case it doesn't get brought up at a council meeting, either parish council or finance council or school board, you need to keep saying, how are these goals being implemented? I haven't heard anything about the goals related to how the school is connecting to the parish. I haven't heard anything in relation to what that goal that we put about vocations. What are we doing in relation to that particular goal? So you're going to be the people calling for that accountability on that local level. And you're going to need to be people who will facilitate the evaluation. Once the plan has been approved by Cardinal Sean, it will come back to you for that implementation. And it will be up to you to say, maybe after 3 months, what's working well? What's not working? Where do we need to put more energy? And it will be your responsibility to call for that. And you know, it's nice to get a nice document that gets written. How many of us have sat on councils or in parish meetings where the mission statement was argued for over and over and over again, and then that mission statement got approved, and it's on the front cover of the bulletin, and aren't we proud of ourselves? And if any one of us were asked what it said, we'd be having to say, I'm really not sure. I know we wrote it, and I think it says something about the sacraments, but I'm not sure what else it says anything about. Oftentimes, that's what happens to us. So what is going to happen in relation to the pastoral plan in your collaborative is that you will have a 3-year span of time to work at these goals. And after 3 years, you're going to be asked to say, okay, how do you renew that pastoral plan? What needs to be changed in it? What can you say we achieved it and we've got it on a good path? And now we can say it doesn't need to be written down to hold us to it. It may continue to be, but we hold it as an important goal, but we don't need to put it in our next 3-year pastoral plan. Does that make sense to you? So when you see yourselves progressing in a good way, you might be able to say, well, now we can put our energies in another direction that will help us to become strong, effective, stable, intentional about our evangelization efforts. This kind of writing, this kind of planning, this kind of accountability is becoming a new way of life for us in parishes. This is one of the ways, we know when Father Paul and I have gone out earlier on, we were saying to people, life as we knew it in the Archdiocese of Boston has changed. And this is one of the most concrete ways that we can show you that life has changed. It's not business as usual. It's really calling us to say, where do we need to work hard? Where do we need to put more energy? Where do we need to put some expressions of who we are before the community that we live in, so that they will be responsive to our parishes as places of the new evangelization. Lastly, along with the papers that you received that were pretty and colorful, you got one that is a sample collaborative plan. It's called the New Borough Collaborative Plan. Please hear me say, you see the word that's written in a watermark that says sample? I mean that. It's a sample. It by no means is a perfect document. This document was drawn up as a sample that we gave to the pastors when they came to their 8 days of training. And so they've got a copy of this. It's probably in the bottom of the big binder that we gave them. We gave them binders that are about 4.5 inches thick. So they may not be able to find this in their binders, but you know it's there. So you might want to say, you know, we got this, and maybe we could just look through it to see amongst ourselves what would be some of the things that we think could be critical that we'd want to see moved forward. What could you can plagiarize me, because Robert Summers and I wrote this together, and we give them permission to plagiarize this, don't we, Robert? But I have a suspicion that you'll be much more creative than Robert and I are. The one thing that I want you to note about this, and this will be my last point, on the goals, if you wouldn't mind, I'd ask you to turn to page 3. Under the new evangelization priority, there's a goal statement that was created, and then particular actions. Note in those first two, it says, in Advent and Lent of 2014-2015, this particular thing will be done. Number 2 says, between Easter and Pentecost of 2015, another action will be done. It's those very examples that you have to say at a council meeting. You know, if you set dates, you're the ones that have to call the parish to accountability. Did we do what we said we were going to do in Lent or in Pentecost? Did we achieve that particular goal? And it's not that you say, okay, we did that one, let's do another one. You're trying to manage all of these. That's why there's not 25 actions with every single category. Even the categories were the ones that Robert and I came up with, but they're not necessarily the categories that you will want to come up with. The one you must come up with is you must have one on vocations. And you'll see in this that there is a section on vocations, and there may be some of those items that you might want to look at to see if there's any way you would want to develop them further. So that's the end of my time. I'm here for any questions. Yes?
Do you have any sense of or recommendation for how often we council should meet?
My sense of how often a council would meet would be perhaps a minimum of every 6 weeks. Some councils are likely to meet once a month, but I wouldn't want it to be any shorter than approximately every 6 weeks. And Father Paul, you may have a sense of that as well.
Sure, some places do monthly meetings for 10 months and then skip
Yes.
July and August.
Yes.
But you certainly don't want to have fewer than 10 meetings a year.
Right, right. Any other questions before I sit down? Because there's a lot of information to cover tonight. And I'm here, so all you have to do is